Don't cut that from the video. Keep that in.
Oh no, I'm gonna make that and then the intro so I come right after this.
Hi YouTube.
Hello.
We're gonna review the blue cards now. Hooray! Once again, he's talking about standard and I'm talking about limited.
Yep. And
so don't get them confused.
We'll make some overall picks at the end here. First up, anti-cognition, 1 in a blue, instant for common. Counter target creature or planeswalker spell unless its controller pays 2. If an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, instead counter that spell, then scry 2. This card is one of the few common cards that's going to see a lot of standard play because I think the mill decks are going to be popular. I think there's going to be a lot of times that this spell is going to be able to have its full effect early in the game, as early as turn 2 or turn 3. So I think that towards the mid and late game, this card is really going to shine, especially scrying away all those bad lands or things that you don't need. So I think this is a solid A tier card for sure.
And in limited, this counter spells are weird in limited, and I say this often about them. They're usually not very good because they don't do anything, or they have to do something more than just counter the spell in order for it to be good. This one does more. It lets you scry 2 when your opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, and I think the blue-black mill deck is a real archetype. You're going to be able to get 8 cards in their graveyard frequently enough to turn this on as a 2-mana, as an Essence Scatter Plus, basically. And in the early game, it's going to get something anyway, because your opponent's tapping out a lot to cast their spell. So I think this card's fine. I don't think you're picking it's not like your top 3 cards in the pack or anything, but it's going to be fine. You're going to play it more often than you're going to cut it. It's a C. Next up, Bubble Snare. For 1 blue, you get an enchantment aura at common with kicker for 2 in a blue. It says enchant creature. When Bubble Snare enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step.
So it's a worse Capture Sphere in Standard, and Capture Sphere saw literally 0 play in Standard, even in enchantment decks. Even in decks that want to play auras, that want to play enchantments, it saw 0 play in Standard. I think it's a cool card. It's a very cheaply costed card, and the kicker is, makes it better. But I don't think it's going to see any play at all in Standard, so I'm going to have to give this one an F.
In Limited, however, this card's really good. The fact that you can do it either way, for 1 mana to lock down a pesky creature that's already hit you once, or for 4 mana to stop that pesky creature from ever hitting you at all, this card's going to be way better than you think it is. I almost want to say it's premium removal in blue, but I don't quite want to push it there. So it doesn't get the B rating. I think I'm just going to give it a C, but boy, is it close. I could be wrong about this one. It could be a B, but I'm going to start it at C.
Huh. It's a little bit lower than I was expecting you to give it, honestly. Just because
it's conditional, man.
Just because I agree with what you said. So, Cascade Seer, 3 in a blue. When Cascade Seer enters the battlefield, scry X, where X is the number of creatures in your party. It's a 3/3 body, Merfolk Wizard creature. So this card has some things going for it. Scry effects are typically pretty strong. The fact that it's minimum scry 1 for 4 on a 3/3 body in blue makes it better. Just because typically speaking, you don't really see these 3/3 bodies. It's kind of like the white card that lets both people draw a card. It's a little bit overcost for the effect. Sometimes you're gonna hit 2 or 3 scry on it, and it's gonna be okay. Sometimes you're gonna just hit the 1. I think if you're playing a wizard deck, it might make the cut just because you're going to scry 1 all the time. But I in the party deck, you may play it as well. But I'm not valuing party cards very highly, so this is going to be C at best. It's probably D tier.
Yeah. In Limited, this card's fine. It's not amazing. 4 mana for a 3/3 body is run of the mill. But if it gives you card selection and fixes the top of your deck. So if you get those lands out of the way, it's really good. If you can get this to scry 2 or more, it's well worth it. Even if it's only scrying 1, like it always will, it's still okay. C. Charix, the Raging Isle. For 2 and 2 blue, you get a 0/17 legendary creature Leviathan Crab at rare. It says spells your opponents cast that target Charix the Raging Isle costs 2 more to cast. And you can pay 3, and Charix gets plus X minus X until end of turn, where X is the number of islands you control.
I love this card. I love everything about this card.
It's great.
I love the flavor of the card. I love the stat line of the card. I love the ability of the card. I love the secondary ability of the card. I love that it only costs 4. I
Giant
still only
crab.
think this is a C tier card,
Yeah.
but I love this card. Craig and I have already been talking about making decks for it. It's going to be a thing.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I'm going to give this bad boy trample somehow and have it not be inconvenient and just
Sure.
bash things in the face. I like this card, but I don't think it's going to make waves.
Like, because in the
It's
art,
a giant crab.
Hilarious.
I don't think it's gonna make waves in standard or anything, but people are gonna make fun, silly decks. So C tier. I hope that it becomes A tier, but
I mean, and in limited, this is obviously a huge bomb. Even if it's always a 0/17, it's just gonna block literally everything. Your opponent can never attack again.
actually, it's only gonna block one thing.
Well, yeah, it's gonna block one thing at a time, but it's gonna block the biggest thing they have, and it's gonna make their life really hard. And if you've got a few islands laying around, hell, turn it sideways. Or you can even activate it during a blocking phase in order to get that damage off. With 17 health, it's not gonna die. It's a bomb. It's gonna win you games. Even if it just sits there and does nothing, it's still helping you win the game. This is an A.
Interestingly enough, if you have 6 islands, pay 6, and it gets
Plus X minus X twice, yeah.
yeah.
So you can do it. You don't have to have.
No, I know.
15 islands to
It's
make
just
it good,
no, you
yeah.
don't. I mean, you could. That's the most value for it, I
Yeah.
guess. But I like this card. I really, really hope that it is better than I think it is.
We'll see.
Chilling Trap for a blue. It's an instant at common. Target creature gets -4 until the end of turn. If you control a wizard, draw a card. I don't even think the wizard deck is going to want to play this card. Drawing a card is good, but -4, -0 doesn't do anything besides stall out the game a little bit. And when you're playing blue, you're either going to counter their stuff or you're going to splash another color to just straight up remove their stuff. So I don't think that the mono blue wizard deck or the Is It wizard deck wants to play this card. So there's an off chance that it makes it in there just because it's a 1 mana draw card. But I think it's probably D tier. Not completely unplayable, but I don't think it's a star.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same in limited, where the -4, -0 doesn't do anything. It'll be played in the decks that want a 1 mana blue card that also draws a card to fuel your instants and sorcery spells based synergies. But outside of those decks, it's not very good. Outside of those decks, it's probably an F. But since there are decks that are going to want to play it sometimes, I'll give it a D.
Yep, D all the way around.
Cleric of Chill Depths. For 1 and a blue, you get a 1/3 Merfolk Cleric at common that says, whenever Cleric of Chill Depths blocks a creature, that creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step.
It's a cleric. It's blue. It's got a big booty for a 2-drop. It's gonna block the early game stuff, but most of the time when it blocks it, it's gonna kill it. Because you're looking to play this against aggro decks most of the time. If you chump block with it, that does help you the next turn be able to set up whatever else you're trying to do. I think that this card wants to be bigger than it is in order for it to really be effective or have another effect in addition to this to make it actually good. So this is another D tier for me.
Yeah, and in limited, stalling out for a turn doesn't help you very much because you're not able to really fix it in one turn like you could in a constructed format. So a lot of times this thing's just going to die, buy you an extra turn, and then you're going to lose the turn after. And it's only a 1/3, so it blocks the early game pretty well. A 2 mana 1/3, pretty decent rate actually, but you're cutting this more often than you're playing it. It's not the worst if you do need to play it, but cut it if you can. It's a D.
It doesn't even trade up.
No.
Ever. So I don't know. If this was a 1/4,
It was a 1/4 would be really good.
It'd be really
two
good.
2 mana 1/4 is insane.
Yeah, but which there are 2 mana 1/4s in the format
They've
right
been
now,
printed.
So. Concerted Defense. Concerted,
yes.
1 blue. I'm getting all the 1 drops.
Reading's hard.
Instant at uncommon. Counter target non-creature spell unless its controller plays 1 plus an additional 1 for each creature in your party. Okay, so I was just talking to Craig in the car on the way over here that I'm not valuing party cards. That like B is the ceiling. I think instead of playing this card, you'll probably just play a hard counter spell instead. Neutralize is still there for 2 extra things. It just counters it flat out. You also have cycling on that card. If I compare it directly to this, with let's say I have 3 party members out on the board, and I compare that, which is like one of the best case scenarios, right? 3 or 4. So 1 mana they have to pay 3 or 4.
That's pretty good. Mana Leak was really good. But Mana Leak also hit everything, not just non-creature
exactly.
spells.
It's a non-creature spell too, so
it gets walkers?
It gets walkers, but what walkers are we're playing Basri turn 3. Okay? So that always gets Basri, I guess. Even if you have nothing on the board, it always gets Basri, I suppose, on turn 3 specifically.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that you want to play in a tempo deck. I don't know. I think this is probably C tier at best, but I'm going to also give it a D. Just because I don't know that it's going to be even included in the party decks. I think I would cut this card.
Yeah.
So.
And in limited, again, I don't value counter spells very highly. I don't really like them, but this one only costs 1. It's reasonable that on some of your turns, you just got 1 extra mana laying around and your opponent taps out for a big spell. There are huge spells in this format attached to the other sides of lands. And if you manage to get one of those or something like that, you're going to feel really good. And if you've got 1 or 2 creatures on board, making your opponent pay 2 or 3 extra is a real cost. And it's only costing you 1 blue to save up. At the same time, though, if they do have the mana up, or if you don't have any creatures, or if they're playing creature spells, which most of their deck is going to be, you're kind of screwed. I like this one in limited. I like this one, but I don't know that it's going to work out. I'm going to give it a C. I'm going to go high on this one. I'm going to say that it's a C. It's going to work out more often than it's not, because you do want to counter those removal spells really badly in limited. So if you're on turn 5 and you've got 5 mana and you play a 4-drop 4/4 or something, and you save 1 up to protect it, I don't see anything wrong with that most of the time. I'll give it a C.
I think, and I'll say this before we continue on, I think that the next couple of sets, I think that the party mechanic is going to be better.
I think they'll really flesh it out, yeah. But now, I don't think
right now there's not enough
it didn't bring the
support.
thunder, you know what I mean?
It didn't. And if this spell targeted creatures,
oh yeah,
it would be infinitely playable, because on turn 1, if I got nothing else to do, I can save that mana up, and then I can counter their turn 1 play.
Yeah, that they don't want you to be able to do that.
Exactly. They don't want you to be able to do that. No, it is fun.
It is fun for the blue player.
It is fun, but it's not fun for other people. Right. Anyway, moving on.
Confounding Conundrum. For 1 and a blue, you get an enchantment at rare that says when Confounding Conundrum enters the battlefield, draw a card. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player had another land enter the battlefield under their control this turn, they return a land they control to their owner's hand.
I love this card. This card says, "Fuck you, Uro," and I know that we haven't been cussing on this, but that's what this card says.
Yeah, I mean, it says you cannot ramp anymore.
It says no more Uro. Stop it.
Also, don't play Cultivate anymore.
Yeah. So
or the new green.
This
ramp
is
spell.
In control decks. In this meta, this is a 2-of in every control deck. I mean, it has a
more. It's a it replaces it.
Exactly, it's a minimum 2-of.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna run 4 of them. I think that I might cut that down to 3, but I'm excited about this card.
Could you imagine getting multiple of these triggers and just really fucking your opponent's mana base?
Exactly. Well, they can't. They can only play 1 mana. Exactly.
Land a turn,
they play 1 land a turn. They can't play any effects that give it another land.
Yeah.
So no, that shuts down so many things, and it bounces with Yorion, Because I play a lot of Yorion decks,
Yeah,
so
to
you're going to
draw
hear me
cards.
talk about Yorion a lot, just because it's a very strong thing. It's helped get me to plat, so that's, whatever. But anyway, you bounce this with Yorion, you get to draw a card with it. It stays on the field, so it's a target for Calyx. It's got a lot of good things for it. Messes up Uro, without messing up your Uro.
Yeah.
So they have to have a confounding conundrum to answer yours, or you just can ramp out of control and win the game. So yeah, this is an A tier card with it possibly is an S tier card in my opinion. Unless you're playing against exactly a landfall deck that doesn't care about having lands in the hand, this card just wins you games.
And in limited, this card sucks. Your opponent's not going to be putting multiple lands into play very often, and when they do, putting a land back in their hand is just going to give them more landfall triggers. The fact that it draws itself a card when it comes into play keeps it from being an F, because it's going to be useful sometimes against some decks. In a best of 3 match, you might side it in, but boy, this card sucks in limited D.
Oh, sorry, everybody. Let's just go ahead and do that real quick.
Oh, all the Twitch stuff was still on.
Yeah.
Hey guys, did you know that we stream live at twitch.tv/TheRealVX Gaming?
Check us out. We play
Links in the
Magic
description.
all the time, other strategy games. I'm opening 70 packs.
Yeah,
of
and
this set.
really on like the first day it opens. So that would be...
the first night I'm having a stream. Anyway, we've got a Coral Helm Chronicler, 2 and a blue for a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard. I'm gonna try to format mine like that because yesterday I was all over the place and I was annoying myself.
Why can't I just read it the same way every time?
Whenever you cast a kick spell, draw a card, then discard a card. When Coral Helm Chronicler enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a card with kicker ability from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I think that Simic Kicker is going to be a deck. I don't know how competitive it's going to be, but this is going to be a card that's going to be a 3 of, 4 of in that deck. It helps get other good kicker cards. I guess the power level of this card is completely dependent on that deck and completely dependent on how powerful Kicker is as an ability. So I think that this card is probably a B tier card with a ceiling of A tier if that deck goes crazy. If that deck is really, really, really good and does really, really good things, this is going to be one of the enablers to have all those really cool things happen. And a lot of the time, it's going to be a 3 mana 2/2 that draws you a card, discards a card, and then draws you an additional card. So, yeah, I think A tier is pretty solid for it. I'm trying to think of a situation where I wouldn't want to play this in a deck that runs cards, any card with kicker, even if I'm just running 2 or 3 cards with kicker in it. Upside of this card is pretty big. So
yeah. And in limited, a 3 mana 2/2 isn't very great, so the text on the card better be good, and boy, it is. You're gonna be playing kicker spells. As long as this is on board, you're gonna be getting the loot. That's great, and when it enters the battlefield, you get to pick the best card out of your top 5 cards. Top 5 is no joke in limited. You've only got a 40 card deck. That's a lot of your deck. You're gonna find a kicker card. It's a 3 mana 2/2 that gives you great card selection. It's not quite a bomb. It doesn't win the game on its own. It does need some support, but you're still picking this up as early as you possibly can to beat.
And that's, man, I was talking to him about how excited I was for blue, and it's just
There's so many good
it's a
cards here.
powerhouse of a color.
Cunning Geyser Mage. For 2 and a blue, you get a 3/2 human wizard at common with kicker for 2 and a blue as well. When Cunning Geyser Mage enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return up to 1 other target creature to its owner's hand.
Okay, so it's a 3 mana 3/2, aggressively statted. It's got the wizard tag. Both of those things are in its favor. The kicker cost is double the cost of the original card, which is not good, so the effect better be great. Returning a creature to your hand or to your opponent's hand, so it either saves your life or sets you up for a combo later. Could be pretty good. Doing this to one of your the fairies. What the fairy? The
Fade Wishes?
No.
Brazen Borrower?
Brazen Borrower. There you go. Couldn't think of it. I'm sorry. It's early in the morning. Doing this to one of your Brazen Borrowers gets you can, or any adventure creature really, set you up. It's a common. I don't know. I think that this is probably C tier. I think that it could find some niche playability, so that's why it's not lower than that. In standard, it's got the kicker thing, so it could make its way into Simic, because Simic is going to ramp anyway, so it's going to be able to do any of the kicker things it wants to do. So yeah, I think C tier is fine.
And in limited, this card's okay. It's a 3 mana 3/2, which is a fine rate. It's got an interesting ability in the late game when you're in top deck mode. 6 mana is a lot. 6 mana for a 3/2 that does that is a lot. I mean, we just had a 5 mana 3/2 flyer that did that in the previous set. So, 6 mana for a 3/2 on the ground that does this is weak sauce, but you're still going to play it a lot. And it does give you the wizard, so you're going to play it more than you're going to cut it, I think. It's a C.
I just like the flavor of this card too. Like a geyser mage. Like what kind of I'm specifically a geyser mage. I
just hang out near the geysers.
I'm
all
magic
the time.
geysers. I do magic with geysers. Specifically geysers. We got Deliberate, 1 colorless and a blue for an instant. Scry 2, then draw a card. So this is an instant Omen of the Sea that doesn't have the secondary effect. Shows you how good Omen of the Sea is, because Omen of the Sea costs the same amount as this, but it is an instant card, so it fits into Izzet decks more comfortably. Scry 2 then draw a card is always good. I think that this is one of the commons, another one of the commons from Blue that actually could see play, a lot of play in a wide variety of decks. I think this is a solid B tier card. I think that in certain situations you're going to cut it for other bombs or for things that do a little bit more, but including a 2 of or a 3 of in your deck is not going to hurt it.
Yeah. And limited, this card's great. Card selection plus card draw. What more could you ever ask for in a common, especially? You're going to play these in any of your blue-red Spells Matters decks, and most of your other blue decks are going to want the first copy of it or 2. I almost want to give it a B, but you're not picking this over bombs or premium removal. It's still filler. Like, if you've got 6 removal spells, just play your removal spells. Don't worry about this. But if you need to get to your removal spells, this is one of those cards that does it. It's a C. A high C. Almost a B. Expedition Diviner. For 3 and a blue, you get a 3/2 Merfolk Wizard at common that says Flying. And as long as you control another wizard, Expedition Diviner has, when this creature dies, draw a card.
Okay, so it doesn't do anything when it comes down. It flies. It has a conditional effect. So you're going to play this in only the wizard deck. You're not going to play it in the party deck. Unless it's a very heavy wizard party deck with splash the other party members. Maybe. Because you want to draw that card. You want, when this thing dies, you want to draw a card. Which means you want to be aggressive with it, because you want that payoff. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's gonna do anything for it besides maybe draw you a card sometimes. And how do I value maybe drawing a card sometimes? Not very high.
No, pretty low.
So it's a D. It's a D for me.
And in limited, a 4 mana 3/2 with flying alone is fine, and you'd probably play that in blue. The fact that it's a wizard bumps it up, and the fact that it has when it dies, draw a card is pretty good too.
Sometimes.
If you're building a limited deck, you're gonna have a lot of wizards, especially if you're already blue. You're gonna have other wizards on the board. You're gonna get that to happen more often than not in limited. And I think it's pretty good. You're not gonna first pick it by any means. Maybe out of some super weak packs. But you're never cutting this really. It's a C. I mean, it's a different world, friend.
I know.
4 mana 3/2 flyer. I'm playing it.
That's my turn, right?
Yeah.
Field Research, 2 and a blue for a sorcery at common with Kicker, 2 and a blue. Draw 2 cards. If the spell was kicked, draw 3 cards. So 6 mana to draw 3 is pretty bad when there's a 7 mana draw 7 in standard. So if I take away the Kicker effect and it's 3 mana draw 2.
It's pretty standard, pretty run of the mill.
It is, but there's so many better ways to draw cards in standard than this card. It just doesn't do it for me in any way. It's an F tier. It's F. I mean, you do not want to play this card if you cannot craft one of the other draw cards, then you should probably evaluate what cards you're crafting. But yeah, I think this is F tier.
In limited, this card's fine. Divination is a fine card in limited. 3 mana, draw 2. It's a fine thing at the end of your curve after you've played out your hand of creatures just to refill. And sometimes in the late game, you're going to make it draw 3, and that's really powerful. Playing more cards than your opponent oftentimes wins you the game in limited. You just put more stuff down. But it's still not amazing. You're probably not cutting the first copy of it. I'm tempted to say D just because sometimes you won't play it, but it's going to make the cut pretty often. C. Glacial Grasp. For 2 and a blue, you get an instant at common that says, tap target creature. Its controller mills 2 cards. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Draw a card. There's a lot of text on this.
It is. I like this card. I like this card a lot. I know I just talked about the -4/-0 effect, saying that it really just stalls the game out. But this taps something, taps it down, and doesn't untap during the next time, mills a card, and draws you a card for 3. So it does a lot of things. And we're seeing the 3-mana spell slot in this set being very strong. You'll see that in green. You'll see that going forward in other things. 3 mana is a premium slot in this set. I think this card is really good. Even in standard, I think you're going to want to play it just for the mill 2 cards and draw a card thing for 3. So it cantrips itself, it furthers your main goal, and it can sometimes save your face. I don't think that this is like a showstopper, and I think that this probably gets cut for other mill effects. But there may, in a mono blue deck where you're really trying to get as many mill effects as possible, this probably makes the cut. Probably stays in. So I think I'm going to give this a C with a C+, just because mill could be broken in this set. I'm not really 100% positive if it's going to be, but I think it's going to be really good.
And in limited, this card's fine. It replaces itself, locks a creature down for 2 combats, which means they can't block 2 turns, they can't attack with it 2 turns, and you get to attack through it for 2 turns. And it mills 2 cards, which the blue-black deck really cares about. You're going to play this, especially in the blue-black archetype, but in any mono, blue, blue-green, any tempo deck that you're playing in limited, you're really going to want to play this. It makes the cut more often than it doesn't, but it's not first pickable by any means. So, C.
I think I'm going to experiment with this card and see if it's actually worth playing.
I think it will be. At instant speed, it's going to be worth it. If it were a sorcery, it'd be a lot worse. But the fact that it's an instant really brings it up for me.
Well, when we get to the black cards, I might refer back to this card if I remember. Yeah. But you'll see why I'm kind of about it.
Ooh, you get the one with all this text.
Inscription of Insight. For 3 and a blue, you get a rare sorcery with kicker, 2 and 2 blue. For choose one. If the spell is kicked, choose any number instead. The choices are return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands, scry 2, then draw 2. Target player creates an XX blue illusion creature token, where X is the number of cards in their hand. Okay, a lot to consider here. So when you're talking about standard, I want to evaluate 4 mana, doesn't matter what they are, for any one of those effects. So 4 mana for scry 2, draw 2. 4 mana for return up to 2 creatures. So 2 unsummons for double the cost.
Things get better when they're bundled.
Okay.
But two unsummons for 4 mana is a little pricey.
So would I cast this spell for just that effect? No. I think if I'm going to cast this spell just for the first effect, just to pick one, it's either going to be the second or the third. Most of the time, it's the second ability.
Agreed.
This does make my wish board a lot of the time. Because late game, if I want to wish for an answer, and I want to do a lot of different things very efficiently with my mana, tapping down 7 mana.
Yeah, like if you've already got 8 laying around.
8 mana, sorry. Tapping down 8 mana. Kicker confuses me because math is hard with mana symbols and shit. So 8 mana to do this the turn after you get it. It's going to reset the board. It's going to set up your next turn, and it's going to give you a play on the board. But it's 8 mana, so now we're talking. I'm sorry that this one requires a little bit more than just me, like just
there's a lot of stuff there.
So this compared to playing an Ugin because they both cost 8. And Ugin is in the 8 mana slot for any of your decks. Ugin is the payoff. This or Ugin, I'm still playing Ugin most of the time because Ugin removes something from the board or removes the entire board. I'm gonna say this is a B tier card. Just because 4 mana for that first effect sucks. And 4 mana for either of the other two also kind of sucks. But I still think it's gonna see play. I still think it's in your wish board for sure. So that's a B tier.
In limited, this card's awesome. 4 mana for any one of those 3 abilities, great. And in the late game, when you have 8 to get them all, talk about a total blowout. You're getting a dude, you're getting card selection, and you're subtracting from your opponent's board so that you can swing. Get wrecked. It doesn't win the game on its own. You do have to have like some creatures in play to make it really good, but it enables you to win the game on its own. It's almost a bomb, but the fact that it just doesn't do it by itself keeps it from being A to S. Shoot, man. In limited, this is still an A. You're still taking it all the time. It's not quite S tier, but man, that does a lot for what it's packaged with. That's an A in limited, 100%.
I mean, if that kicker cost was 1 less, it would be a complete.
Yeah.
For me, if this was 7 mana to do this instead of 8 mana to do it, it would be completely different.
Yeah, and in limited, the difference there doesn't really matter.
But for 7 mana, I'll do this all day long. For 8 mana, I think I'm just gonna play the Ugin.
And next up, into the Royal. For 1 and a blue, you get an instant at common with Kicker 1 and a blue, and we've seen this card before in other sets, by the way. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If this spell was kicked, draw a card.
F tier. I don't think you're ever playing this card. It does cantrip itself, but for 4 mana, it's a unsummon plus a draw 1 card. It's not good enough. So
in limited, it's totally the opposite. This card's great. 2 mana. It gets a non-land permanent, by the way. It's not just creatures.
Oh, yeah.
It gets your pesky enchantments to let your creatures come in for an attack.
Yeah,
it gets your
F.
walkers. It cantrips itself. You're usually going to be using this to get a blocker out of the way and attack and then draw a card. Awesome. You're going to play this all the time. It's in the lower range of first pickable in some weak packs. But I don't want to give it a B just for that. But you're not ever cutting this card. It's easy C.
All right, I'll give it a D. Just because because of the non-land permanent. I didn't realize that. I'll give it a D. Just because it might see play in like an aggressive deck.
Like a mono blue
aggressive deck. Yeah. We'll give it a D. Jace, Mirror Mage.
I'm excited for this one. Go ahead.
It's 1 and 2 blue for a legendary Planeswalker Jace with 4 loyalty, mythic rare. With kicker, 2 colorless. One of the better kicker costs of the entire set.
Yeah, super cheap.
I will say that. When Jace Mirror Mage enters the battlefield, if Jace was kicked, create a token that's a copy of Jace Mirror Mage, except it's not legendary and its starting loyalty is 1. And it's got a +1 loyalty for Scry 2 and 0 loyalty for draw a card and reveal it. Remove a number of loyalty counters equal to that card's converted mana cost from Jace Mirror Mage. Okay. A lot to go through here. First, let's go with not kicking it. Just Jace by himself without 2 of them. So it's your Scry engine. You can Scry. You can set up your draw for Jace and not kill him. The next turn with just 1. I think that he's really good. I think that he's going to make a lot of decks. I think him alongside Teferi is insane. If you have both of them out, you're really, really happy. And you're probably so far ahead 2 or 3 turns later that you're just going to win the game.
Yeah.
2 Jaces. Just the 2 Jaces by themselves. With 1 Jace, you can Scry. With the other Jace, you can draw.
It's really good.
So you Scry with the first one, set up your draw for the second one, pop the second one. Even if you kill the copy, still not bad. Yorion deck, you bounce this Jace, comes back, makes another token. I don't know. No, he doesn't.
No.
Well,
you don't get the kicker if it's bounced. You only get kickers if you copy.
Okay, that's right. That's right. If it's as it's
But
entering
you
the
can still
battlefield, if you
reset his
copy it.
loyalty.
You can still reset his loyalty, which is good. So I think this card is really strong, and I think again 2 Jaces plus a Teferi. So you scry 2, maybe you miss, scry 2 with the second one, maybe you hit one of the cards that you want to draw, then you draw one, discard one with Teferi. You're searching your deck for something, and you're gonna get whatever you want. The only thing that sucks about this card is that a lot of people are going to be getting them for free, basically, for buying the 50 pack.
I mean, whatever.
It does make an effect on how valuable the card is, as far as like how playable he is. I think a lot of people are going to be playing this card. I think I'm going to be playing this card. I will give him an A.
In limited, this card is actually worse than it is in constructed. Surprisingly, most of the time the walkers are big game changers in limited. But this one sometimes doesn't do it for you. It doesn't affect the board. He doesn't protect himself. A lot of times you're just gonna play him and he's gonna die. He does give you card selection and card draw, so don't get me wrong, he's not bad. But if you can't kick it, it only does one or the other. And a lot of times, if you can't kick it and you only need to do one, you're just gonna be tapping that 0 button and hoping that you draw something good. Because you don't have 2 turns to set that up in limited before Jace just gets attacked and he dies, because he doesn't defend himself like other planeswalkers do. I don't think he's bad by any means, and you're never cutting him. But I don't think I'm always first picking Jace Mirror Mage if I'm in blue, like blue-black or something. I think I'm taking premium removal spells over this Walker most of the time. And I think that makes Jace Mirror Mage just a C in limited. And that hurts me to say, because I'm a Jace fanboy through and through. To see him without his hood on, very interesting. But yeah, man, I mean, it's great, don't get me wrong, but he's gonna win you game.
Nah,
it's a C. I'm sticking with him. Sticking to my guns. I think I'm gonna pass up. I think I'm gonna pass him a lot.
Your points are valid.
And it's gonna feel good to get past Jace, like 3rd pick or something, and that's gonna happen a lot. But
I mean, I'll be drafting him if I don't have any in my collection.
Well,
and just dealing with it.
We're different drafters,
right?
Living Tempest. For 4 to blue, you get a 3/3 elemental at common with flash and flying.
F. Even in blue-black flash, doesn't make the cut. Just because 5 mana for a 3/3, it's not broken enough for it to be playable.
Yeah,
it's not unfair enough.
In limited, it's actually pretty good. 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer is not a super great rate. Usually you want a 4/4 flyer, but you lose 1 power and toughness for flash, and that makes it pretty good. The fact that you can just flash it in and gobble up a 2/2 and then start going on the offensive in the air is gonna turn the tide sometimes. Bad news is your opponent's really gonna know when you didn't cast anything and you have 5 mana open, and they're probably gonna know what you're doing. So, it's fine. It makes the cut more often than it doesn't. It's a C.
Lull Mage's Domination. For X and 3 blue, you get an uncommon sorcery. This spell costs 3 less to cast. If it targets a creature whose controller has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, gain control of target creature with converted mana cost X. So, if they have 8 cards in their graveyard, you can play this for 3 mana and get their 3-drop.
Yeah.
For free.
Well, for 3.
For 3.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I think this card is going to be an auto include in a lot of the mill decks, because if you're milling things, you need to have something else to do besides mill, because milling is inherently slow. The next card changes that a little bit, but it's still inherently slow. So I think that this card in a control matchup is great. I think in a mid-range matchup, it's awesome. You're guaranteed to get something in an aggro matchup, but you don't want to take their stuff anyway, most of the time, because they don't care that they're losing it and they have more stuff anyway. So I think that this card, in the mill deck, you're going to be hitting 8 by turn 3 a lot of the time. Most of the time, actually, because if you turn 1 rogue, turn 2 rogue. They've already milled 9 cards at that point. So yeah, you're good. So I'm gonna give this an A tier. I think it's gonna see a lot of play.
Yeah, and in Limited, this is no joke. Any type of mind control effect in Limited is really, really, really good. Even if you have to pay the X cost, fine, whatever. 6 mana to grab a 3-drop is still taking away from your opponent's board and adding to yours. You're kind of 2-for-1ing your opponent every single time you cast this card. And getting 8 cards in their graveyard, actually pretty easy to do in this set. The blue-black mill deck is going to be real, and this is going to be a card to watch out for. It's swingy. It's going to win you the game on its own sometimes. Usually I would give a spell like this a B, but since I think the mill deck is going to be very real, I'm going to give it an A.
You know,
I think it's a bomb.
I actually think, because I just thought, so from based off of what I said, for 3 mana, I can steal their Uro from them. And in an Uro deck, they want stuff in their graveyard so they can cast Uro. And when they cast Uro, it's going to... Yeah, this is an A tier card. I think I gave it B, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely an A tier card. Because for 3 mana, taking an Uro is worth it literally every single time.
3 mana 6/6 that you stole from your opponent's pretty good.
Yeah. So A tier, maybe even S tier. I don't know.
It doesn't get to S tier for me in Limited because your opponent does have to have something.
I don't know. Maybe reevaluating on the fly there, that's a really, really good. So
Maddening Cacophony. For 1 and a blue, you get a sorcery at rare with kicker 3 and a blue. It says each opponent mills 8 cards. If this spell was kicked, instead, each opponent mills half their library, rounded up.
I love this card.
Oh, me too. This card's great.
Craig and I have messed around with mill decks since basically I've known him. And we did a challenge last season of the game for making a mill deck against each other with no creatures.
It was actually pretty good.
It was actually pretty good, yeah.
I even played it in Standard for a bit.
This card is included literally, and if I'm playing a mill deck, this card is going to be in that deck. Is it a 4 of every single time? No. It's probably a 2 or a 3 of most of the time, because if you have a 4 of, playing it on turn 2 is not bad. It literally enables the rest of your deck now after that point.
Yeah.
Turn 1, play Rogue. Turn 2, Maddening Cacophony. It's slow, but it sets up literally the rest of your game plan. So I like this card a lot. Also, the art on it's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this an A tier as well, just because I really think that we are about to be in mill season. I think that
I'm so excited, by the way.
Everyone is going to be playing a mill deck. So I give this an A tier.
And in Limited, this card's great. For 2 mana, you enable all your 8 or more cards of the graveyard cards. And for a little more, you traumatize your opponent. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit more expensive than Traumatize is, but you're going to be doing that when you draw it in the late game. So, yeah, it doesn't win you the game on its own. It's not a bomb, per se, but it's definitely first pickable, especially if you're already in the mill deck. And if I first pick this card, if I pack 1 open this, I might try and force it. So, yeah, B, easy.
I love that card.
Yeah, very good.
I can't wait to craft it. Master of Winds. It's 2 and 2 blue for a 1/4 Sphinx Wizard creature with flying. And when Master of Winds enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. When you cast an instant sorcery or wizard spell, you may have Master of Winds, base power and toughness become a 4/1 or 1/4 until the end of turn. This card is extremely interesting. So a 1/4 flyer, not the greatest, but it's flying, so it's got a little bit more of an upside. For 4 mana, it's kind of expensive just for that stat line. When you throw on the first ability, when Master Wind enters the battlefield, draw 2, then discard a card, it's now suddenly way better. So just that alone, I think that this card might be playable without the secondary effect. Then you throw the secondary effect on it, and as a combat trick, I can cast an Opt and switch this to a 4/1 and kill whatever you're blocking with it. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. It's got a lot of implications, and I think you can do a lot of interesting things with it. I'm sorry for clapping my hands together very loudly. That probably was very unpleasant to listen to. I like this card. I think that it'll fit into UW Flyers very well. I think that it'll fit into tempo-based decks pretty well, like the Is It tempo with the enchantment guy. I can't think of names right now of cards. I think it's a great card. So I'm gonna give this a B tier because I don't think it wins you the game by itself, and I don't think it's an auto include in those decks. But I think it's very strong.
Yeah, in limited, a 1/4 flyer is okay. For 4 mana, you really only want to be paying 3 for that in limited. But for 4 mana, you also get to draw 2 and discard a card. It's card draw, it's card selection, which is really, really good. And you can turn it sideways for a 4 attacker, and if your opponent tries to kill it in response, just play like some shitty instant or sorcery cantrip spell that you picked because you already had Master of Wind, swap it back, and it defends itself. This card's great. It's a bomb. It's going to win you the game by itself. A 4 attacking flyer just ends the game so fast. A.
So in response to damage, could you play another instant and switch it back to 4?
Yeah, like if you turn it into a 4/1 and they try to shock it, you can opt in response and flip it back.
No, I'm talking about as they're going to block it, like 1/4 versus another 1/4. They're going to block it, so you flip it to a 4/1.
Yeah, and then
it deals combat damage.
You can't flip it back after that. No. Damage just happens and it dies.
Say in response to damage, couldn't you play another one?
You cannot respond to damage. That's old man magic talking. You used to be able to respond to damage because damage used to go on the stat.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't anymore. It just happens.
I want it to work because if it could work,
there's reasons that doesn't happen anymore.
It would be this card would be broken. But
yes,
I was gonna say I don't think that it works that way.
No, they changed that a long time ago for a myriad of reasons.
All right,
my turn. I think yes. Merfolk Falconer. For 3 and 2 blue, you get a 4/4 Merfolk Wizard at uncommon with flying, and whenever you cast a kicked spell, scry 2.
The stats suck, but 4 toughness in the air is very hard to remove. So this card is going to be sticking around. It kills basically every other flyer except for Dream Trawler, I think.
Yeah, it has 5 toughness.
Yeah, so I think that's literally the only thing that blocks this effectively. It kills most reach creatures. Most, Elder Gargaroth says.
Well, card's ridiculous.
And whenever you cast a kick spell, scry 2. So anytime you can take a overcosted effect like Kicker and bundle it with another effect, it's going to make it way better. In Simic Kicker, this card's going to see play. It's expensive. It's really, really late game. You're going to be ramping. I want to say that this card's going to see play. I want to say this is another B tier card in Standard. I don't think it makes the cut all the time, but in a slower Simic deck.
For someone who doesn't play Standard, I think it's going to be too expensive for Standard. Cost wise.
I think that it in a slower Simic deck, a more control thought out Simic deck, it's B tier. I think most of the time it gets cut, so it's probably a C actually, but I'm gonna give it a B, a low B, high C, just because making your kicker stuff do more is
very good.
It's way better.
Its effect is powerful. And in limited, it's also very powerful. And in limited, 5 mana for a 4/4 flyer is really good. That's spot on rates. You would play a 5 mana 4/4 flyer just to have a game-ending flyer to win the game with. But the fact that whenever you kick a spell, you get to scry 2 with it, blows it out of the water. You're already playing kicker spells. You're already kicking those spells, especially after you've cast this for 5. You're going to have 6-7 mana later. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be getting that value. This card's going to win you the game a lot of the time. Not necessarily by itself, so it's not a bomb, but it's definitely first pickable in a lot of packs. Even in pack 1, pick 1, sometimes you're taking this card. It's an easy B. It's almost an A, honestly, but it's an easy B.
It's like a worse Baneslayer Angel.
It's not. It's nowhere near Baneslayer Angel.
I said a worse.
It's much worse than Baneslayer Angel.
But it's a 4/4 flyer.
Baneslayer is a 5/5.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Baneslayer's insane. Baneslayer's broken.
Forget I said that. Merfolk Windrobber.
Wait, what'd you say?
Exactly. For 1 blue, you get a 1/1 Merfolk Rogue at uncommon with flying. Whenever Merfolk Windrobber deals combat damage to a player, that player mills a card. Sacrifice Merfolk Windrobber. Draw a card. Activates ability only if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. This card is insane. Why make broken 1-drops in card games? I don't know. So this card, if it sticks around long enough, enables itself to have the secondary effect. But you have Cacophony in the set, so a lot of the time, in response to it dying after turn 2, you just draw a card. I think this is a 4 of in any mill deck. No problem. Like, I'm not going to be upset about running 4 of it. It's a flyer as well, so it even fits into other decks.
This card's really good.
A 1/1 flyer for 1 that has a good effect and then a good secondary effect. I mean, because even the worst case scenario, you top deck this late game, you play it for 1 mana, sack it, draw a card.
It's a cantrip spell.
It's a cantrip. It's a 1 mana draw card late game.
Which is fine.
Early game, it's a body.
But...
Exactly.
but it's still good.
It's still not bad. This is A tier, easy A tier. I think it's a 4 of auto include in all mill decks. So.
Yeah. In limited, it's actually a little worse. Although a 1 mana 1/1 flyer is never getting cut from your deck, it's not going to do as much work as it would in standard. There's less ways to really capitalize on having a 1 mana 1/1 flyer in the early game. It's going to dink in for a few points of damage. It's going to put a few cards in their graveyard, and then it's probably just going to die. In the late game though, you do get to chump block with it and draw a card, and miss that damage. It's very good. Don't get me wrong. You might first pick it in some weak packs if you're already in blue and you're in mill, or if you have a lot of good equipment, because this is really something you can play early, slap some stuff onto, and start going to town on your opponent. You're really gonna see it shine there. I want to say, you know what? Let's go for gusto. Let's call it a B. I think you're gonna first pick this sometimes. I think it's pretty good. I almost want to give it a C just because it is kind of small and it needs some help, but you're going to get that help more often than not, and the mill is relevant. B. Negate.
It's
Negate. 1 in a blue, instant, counter target non-creature spell.
C tier card.
Yeah,
it's going to make the cut sometimes. Sometimes it's not going to make the cut. Are you happy you have it on turn 2? Most of the time. So.
Yeah, in limited, don't play this. Unless you really, really need something, or you have a lot of counterspell synergy somehow.
It's negate.
It's D.
If you're watching this video, you know what this card is.
Yeah, it's
Nimble Trap Finder. For 1 in a blue, you get a 2/1 human rogue at rarity. Nimble Trap Finder can't be blocked if you had another cleric, rogue, wizard, or warrior or wizard enter the battlefield on your control this turn. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, creatures you control gain whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card until the end of turn. I literally just said on the way over here that card with this text, a thing that happens whenever you have a full party instead of like an enter the battlefield effect, is going to be good. So you play this in the rogue deck most of the time. You play this in the party deck most of the time. I think this is a solid B tier card. In an aggressive party deck that actually works and doesn't suck, I think it's gonna be a showstopper. And everything else, I think it's just gonna be meh.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, in limited, a 2 mana 2/1 unblockable is gonna be good. And it's going to be unblockable a lot of time. You're going to just be playing more creatures, and most of them are party members. If you do manage to get a full party, it's going to be insane. But I don't think you're going to do that most of the time, unless it's super easy. If it's super easy, this card's insane, like way more insane than I think it is. But I'm not there on it. I'm not there for that. Otherwise, it's just pretty good. It's 2 mana 2/1, sometimes unblockable. Meh. you're probably gonna play it, but I'm not gonna be yanking this out of my pack one pick one or anything. It's a C. Risen Riptide.
Risen Riptide.
Yeah, for 2 and a blue, you get a 0/5 elemental creature at common which says whenever you cast a kicked spell, Risen Riptide has base power and toughness 5/5 until end of turn.
Okay. This is a card with a huge upside for how much it costs.
3 mana 5/5 is a good rate.
It enables kicker. It doesn't enable kicker, but it gives you a plus side to kicker, which I said is valuable already. But it's a 0/5 when you play it. And you're not going to play this, and you're probably not going to be able to kick it on turn 4 to make it a 5/5. Probably not going to be able
to the Royal. You can.
Okay.
But probably not.
Probably not. You're probably going to be kicking it stuff on turn
6.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
I think this is a D- tier card.
Yeah, and in limited, it falls flat too, unless you really get there on kicker spells, which I think is going to be pretty easy to do. In that deck, this card's great, and you're never cutting it. In most other decks, it's a 3 mana 0/5 wall. That can still be useful if you're playing a blue-white flyer theme in draft or something. A 0/5 wall on the ground to prevent you from taking some early damage is going to be okay. Honestly, even as a 0/5 wall, this makes the cut some of the time. So I'm going to have to give this one 2 different grades, because in the kicker deck, it's an easy C, and in a not kicker deck, it's probably more like a D.
Yeah, a D- in standard. Because you got cards like this.
This is yours.
1-drop, I know.
Oh.
I've got all the 1-drops. Roost of Drakes, 1 blue for an uncommon enchantment with kicker 2 and a blue. When Roost of Drakes enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. And also reads, whenever you cast a kick spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying.
This card's so good.
So,
Fuck you, Griffin Airy.
I was just talking about making kicker better. This card is one of the reasons you play the kicker deck.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just spam, you just make 2/2s every single turn, plus whatever you kicked. Yeah, and sometimes you do other kicker effects on top of that.
It's just free 2/2 flyers.
Exactly. It's free 2/2 flyers in the kicker deck.
Like the Griffin Airy deck exists for a reason. 2/2 flyers are good when you can just make them infinitely.
So it's for 4 mana, you create a 2/2 flyer plus get this effect out on the field. Yeah, I think this is specifically in the kicker deck, this is probably an A tier, S tier card, honestly.
I think it's an auto included in the kicker deck.
I mean, if you play this on turn 1, it's still not bad. You're setting up the rest of your game, and it's an instant threat that somebody has to deal with.
And it's an enchantment, it's hard to deal with.
Exactly. It's an enchantment. You have to take very specific removal for it. I think it's an A tier card, easy. I think it can be S tier, and I think that people are going to make decks just solely built around Roost of Drakes. So
for sure. And in limited, this card's no joke either. It's a lot harder to make it happen in limited, but when you do, you're going to dominate the game. Even if you just make 2 2/2s with this. Like, let's say you're probably never just casting it without its kicker. You want to get the first 2/2 guaranteed with it. And then after that, if you manage to get another 2/2, it's 4 mana for 2 2/2 flyers. That's insane. Any more on top of that is icing on the cake. You guys, you're first picking this a lot of the time. It doesn't win the game by itself, because by itself, it's just a 4 mana 2/2 flyer, and that's bad. But boy, if you get the help for it, it's insane. It's for that reason, it's not quite a bomb, but it's still really good. You're still first picking it. B.
Yeah. Blue is a powerhouse color.
There's a lot of freaking 1-drops in blue, by the way.
Yeah.
All right. Ruin Crab. For 1 blue, you get a 0/3 crab at uncommon with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 3 cards. We've seen this card before. Last time we were in Zendikar, it was just named different.
Ruin Crab is great. It protects you from aggro. You want to play this on turn 1, and hopefully you have your second and third land drop if you're,
Yeah, it's either this or the 1/1 flying guy.
Yeah.
Both of which are fantastic.
Exactly.
In that deck.
I mean, and the opponent's really sad if you turn 1 Ruin Crab, turn 2 Ruin Crab, which will happen sometimes. Because you better believe if I have 2 mana and 3 crabs, I'm keeping that hand every time. Just because it's gonna be incredible. And if you do it right, it's just but because it's a 1-drop, because it's a 0/3, because it's not insane, it does enable your deck. It does do a lot of cool things. I think it's still only a B tier card, despite how much I like it, despite how prevalent I think it's going to be. It's not winning the game. If you top deck this late game, you're kind of sad.
That's very true.
You got a 0/3 blocker, and at that point, if you're top decking lands, you lose the game, and milling 3 cards is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
So it's B, no matter how much I like the frickin' crab.
In limited, I love the crab as well. It's going to allow you to win games you had no fucking business winning. And if you're already in the blue back mill deck, you're going to pick one this. But if you're not already in the deck, you're going to wait a little bit later to try and see this. You're not taking it over removal spells and stuff, but it's still really good. But because you're not first picking it a lot of the time, I'm going to give it a C. But you're never cutting this. It almost doesn't matter what deck you're running. If you're playing blue, you're not cutting this. Because again, like Teferi's tutelage in M21, you're just going to win games that you had no business winning sometimes. You're just going to be like, oh, I top decked the land to kill you. And you're like, what? It's great.
Seagate Stormcaller. For 1 in the blue, you get a 2/1 human wizard at Mythic Rare. Right, that's Mythic Rare? Colorblind, so sometimes it's confusing for me. With kicker, 4 in a blue. When Seagate Stormcaller enters the battlefield, copy the next instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 2 or less you cast this turn when you cast it. If Seagate Stormcaller was kicked, copy that spell twice instead. You may choose new targets for the copies. Okay. So this card is good for just 2 mana, and I think a lot of the time you're going to play it out for just the 2 mana cost.
Nearly every time.
If you're playing it with it plus its kicker, if you have 7 mana plus whatever spell you're playing. So I mean, sometimes in the Is It deck, you have 8 mana. You play this for this kick cost, and then you shock them in the face 3 times. That's not horrible.
No, it's pretty good.
That's not horrible. But at the end of the day, it's 8 mana to deal 6 damage and make a 2/1. So, and I mean, what else are you doing after you play this with 1 mana or 2 mana? Because that's typically what it's going to be. If you cast a 3 mana spell with this card for its kicker cost, you're already so far ahead, you're winning the game anyway. Because I mean, if the game goes to 10 mana, I don't even know. So a lot of the time it's just a 2 mana 2/1 that copies the next spell that you play, and that's pretty good. That's nothing to shrug at, because I sometimes you do want to, for 3 mana, copy that shock and clear their board, because that's what is going to happen. Other times, I think this is a solid B tier card. I wish it was a rare instead of a mythic rare. I also wish the kicker cost 2 less, but we don't always get what we want. So yeah, I think this is a B tier card. I think that people are going to make decks around it and are going to try to do silly things with it, and I think that'll be fine.
For sure. And in limited, this card's amazing. 2 mana for a 2/1 that copies your next spell. Even if you're just copying like one of the draw cantrips or something, you're doing really good. And if you manage to kick it and have all that mana and copy something twice, whatever, run away with that game. But you're first picking this a lot of the time. It doesn't win the game by itself, so it's not a bomb, but it's really powerful, and you're going to get ahead whenever you can copy something with it. There will be times you just need to play it as a 2 mana 2/1, and that's okay, but it's really not what you want. It's a B in limited easy.
I was just thinking 9 mana to mill 24 cards and have a 2/1. I was like, is that bad? And when you say it out loud, it is bad. So
Yeah.
never mind.
It's less good Snapcaster Mage,
Yeah,
but it's still good.
yeah. We all have nightmares about Snapcaster Mage.
I have beautiful dreams about Snapcaster Mage. Seafloor Stalker. For 2 and a blue, you get a 2/3 Merfolk Rogue at common with the text of...
He said
Wow.
it, guys. He did it.
Why did I say it like that? With 4 and a blue, Seafloor Stalker gets +1/+0 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each creature in your party. Clearly, we write very, very specific scripts.
F, garbage, bad. I don't think that you don't play this ever. If the ability cost 1 mana, it'd be
Blue Fire Breathing.
I would say blue fire breathing, but I don't think that. I mean, guess it can win you the game if you have a full party and you play it and you do it for 1 and then it's unblockable and you just bash them in the face. But I don't think.
I don't think you're living that dream off.
I don't think you're living the dream a lot.
No.
I think that it's way more cost fire breathing and it's in blue, so that makes it inherently worse. It is unblockable, but whatever. I think it's F. I don't think it's playable.
In limited, this card's fine. 3 mana 2/3 is fine. The ability costs a lot, but it already, immediately, since it's a rogue, it costs 4 instead of 5, so that's good. And sometimes you're going to spend that mana. It's a good mana sink in the late game. It's fine. Probably not cutting it most of the time. To see.
This is why I don't think the party effect is going to be that good, man.
It's just
cards like that. It's just like,
yeah.
You got Shell Shield for 1 blue. Theme. Kicker 1. Target creature you control gets +0/+3 until the end of turn. If the spell is kicked, it also gains hexproof until the end of turn. In standard, I don't think it's good enough. I normally don't say limited stuff, but in limited, this is way, way better. But in standard, it's just not 2 mana. You keep something alive sometimes.
It's kind of like negate.
It is. You'd rather just counter whatever they play anyway. Giving +0/+3 to something isn't super relevant. Unless you're playing the giant crab and you want to keep it alive and pop it off for 1 more. I don't know. I just don't even think it's that good. So this is F.
Yeah,
F tier card.
In limited, this card's okay. Protecting your creature in combat's fine. Hexproof is really, really powerful. Countering your opponent's removal spells is always really good, but you do need to leave 2 mana up to do it. You're cutting this more often than you're playing it, but you're not horribly unhappy with it either. If the +0/+3 ends up being more relevant, it'll be good, but it's probably not. It's a D. Skyclave Plunder. For 4 and a blue, you get a sorcery at uncommon that says look at the top X cards of your library, where X is 3 plus the number of creatures in your party. Put 3 of those cards in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
5 mana, selective, draw 3.
Sometimes selective, draw 3. Sometimes it's just 5 mana, draw 3.
Yeah, where X is 3. No, it's 3 plus the number
of creatures in your party. Yeah, but sometimes that's 0. If there's nothing on your board.
Look at it. Yeah, where X is 3 plus the number of creatures in your, so if 0, so it's 3 plus, so it's always 3.
Yeah. So but then it's just draw 3 because you don't get any selection. You look at the top 3 cards and you put them in your hand.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, it's just draw 3 with more steps.
Right, but that's still. I mean, with 1 creature, it's better. I guess obviously, if you have a full party, it's you look at the top 4. I mean, look, you look at the top. Well, you look at top 7 and draw 3, so it's significantly better. I think people are gonna want to play this card. Yeah. I think people are going to put this in decks, but I don't think it's gonna pay off the way that they want it to. It's really slow because it's a sorcery. It's also really slow because it does essentially nothing to the board state when you get it. So you have to have more than 5 mana to just play this card. If you play this on turn 5, it feels pretty bad to do nothing to the board state at all.
Yeah, you're going to get wrecked.
If you play this on turn 5 with a full party, It still feels pretty bad because you've done nothing to help your party. Your party's screwed at that point, probably. So yeah, this is C tier. Just because of how slow it is. Maybe even D tier if the party deck is as bad as I think it is. So.
And I'm going to go the other direction for limited and say 5 mana draw 3 is fine. Playing this as your top end after you've already spilled your whole hand out onto the board is going to be really good. If you manage to have a couple of party members down, 5 mana, draw your 3 best cards out of your top 5 sounds amazing. It's gonna run away with the game, man. You're gonna first pick this sometimes if you're already in blue, especially in packs 2 or 3 in a draft. You're excited to see this. You don't want more than one of it, obviously. And if you've already got some other draw cards, it's gonna get slightly worse because you don't need to draw that much because this one's already doing it for you. B.
I have no idea.
Get it together, man.
I just clicked one time and it's like highlight everything. Sorry, that was probably really loud. Skyclave Squid. For 1 and a blue, you get a 3/2 squid at common with Defender and Landfall whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control. Sorry. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, Skyclave Squid can attack this turn as though it didn't have Defender. Of note, it doesn't actually lose Defender. It can just attack as though it didn't have it. So that's might be relevant in some historic decks where they care about Defender, but they don't really care about Defender in Standard right now. This card is not gonna see play in any deck.
Yeah, go for the gusto. Just give it the F.
Yeah, it's an F tier. Just it's not. You're not gonna play it. There's no way that you look at this card and are like, this is better than other things. It's not. It's just not.
And in limited, it's also not that good. 2 mana for a 3/2 is a really good aggressive rate, but it has Defender. You're gonna put Defender on an aggressive card. And granted, you play a land, then it loses Defender, so you can attack with it, but still not doing anything. I mean, it trades up, so you might play it, but you really want to be attacking with it. You're just not going to be doing that a lot of the time, and it's still going to die to the other 2 mana 2X's in the game. So whatever, it's fine, but it's not great. C at best, but probably more like a D.
With Shell Shield, it's not horrible. For 3 mana, you get a 3/5.
But that doesn't last forever.
I'm just saying.
And sometimes it can't even attack.
Yeah, it's garbage.
Come on. Sure-footed Infiltrator. For 3 and a blue, you get a 2/3 Merfolk rogue at uncommon that says tap another untapped rogue you control. Sure-footed Infiltrator can't be blocked this turn. Whenever Sure-footed Infiltrator deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
I think. Okay, so you have to have a board presence for this card to really shine. Even playing this on an empty board, 4 mana for a 2/3 doesn't feel the greatest. But on an empty board, it kind of it has to be dealt with pretty quickly. In the Dimir Rogue deck, it might see some play. I think the fact that you can tap one of your crappy guys to get this guy through to draw a card is pretty good. I say this is a solid C, maybe approaching B, just because you can make it unblockable and draw a card with it. So it does stuff after you play it. I kind of like it. I don't know. It's kind of still mad though.
Yeah, I think it's too slow for Standard, honestly.
Yeah. But I think people are gonna put it into their decks, and I think people are gonna play it, and I think people are gonna try to make it work. So excited. We'll say C tier, approaching B.
4 mana for a 2/3 is not a great rate, but 4 mana for a 2/3 unblockable, starting to sweeten the deal. 4 mana for a 2/3 unblockable that draws you a card when it hits your opponent. Now we're talking. This is a card that's going to run away with games. It's going to let you cast more spells than your opponent, and then you're going to win. Sometimes it's just going to kill them. This card's awesome. You're going to pick it. You're going to play it. You're never cutting it. You're picking this out of some weak packs first. This is a B.
Tazim Royal Mage. For 1 and a blue, You get a 2/1 Merfolk Wizard at common with Kicker 4. When Tazim Royal Mage enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. So for 6 mana, I get a 2/1 that gets me one of my instant spells that I probably can't play this turn.
Yeah, 2/1, draw a card.
It's pretty bad. It's F. The fact that the kicker cost is colorless is probably the only upside to the card. But still, paying 6 mana for that effect is pretty slow, especially when there are cheaper effects in standard right now. I don't think you're going to ever play this card, even in the wizard deck. I don't think you're making space for it. And if you're casting this for 6 mana to get the effect, you're probably in a losing state anyway, I guess, or you're winning so hard that it won't even really matter that much. So yeah. I don't like it.
In limited, a 2 mana for a 2/1 isn't really what you want. You want a 2/2 or better, really. But when you bundle it with, in the late game, draw your best instant or sorcery out of the grave, like Skyclave Plunder or something, it gets a lot better. Surprisingly, this card's not that bad in limited. It's not amazing, and you're not first picking it by any means. And you might be cutting it some of the time, but I think you're going to play this if you've got good instants and sorceries to get back, or if you've got good kicker synergy, preferably both. And in the blue-green kicker deck with the good instants and sorceries, yeah, you're going to play this card. But you're not going to be, I'm so excited to play this card. It's a C. It's fine. You're going to play it, but you're not going to be overjoyed. Thieving Skydiver. For 1 and a blue, you get a 2/1 Merfolk Rogue at rare with Kicker X. Flying. And when Thieving Skydiver enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, gain control of target artifact with converted mana cost X or less. If that artifact is an equipment, attach it to Thieving Skydiver.
Equipment counterplay. I like the thought behind the card.
Any artifact.
Yeah, it's true, any artifact. But you want to get an equipment to attach it to the Skydiver so you get more value out of it, right? But any artifact, so what artifacts are you going to be getting with it? Getting a glass casket doesn't really matter. Getting an oven doesn't really matter. Just because the good oven's gone. I guess sometimes you get their Solemn Simulacrum. It's pretty good. Yeah.
I think this is really in there to get the aggressively costed equipment.
Yeah, I think that getting an Embercleave with this is pretty great because it takes the Embercleave away from your opponent.
It's 8 mana.
I mean, but it takes
the 9 fingers up as an 8 mana.
It takes the Embercleave away from your opponent.
It gives it to you.
It gives it to you and attaches it to the creature. So that's pretty good. It can save your ass in some situations, but I don't think that unless the either red deck wins, which is always going to be popular, with Embercleave in it is super prevalent, or the equipment deck is super relevant. I don't think that this card is going to be awesome. I'm going to give it a C tier just because it does have a cool effect and just because it can steal Embercleave sometimes, and that's what you want. So,
Limited, this card's awesome. A 2 mana 2/1 flyer is really strong, really good already. And if you manage to steal any artifact with it, it's good. If you manage to steal a piece of equipment with it, it's busted. You just took your opponent's amazing aura that can never be destroyed and always and you just got it for yourself. This card's great. It might even, in the case where you steal an equipment from it, it's a bomb, but it's not always that case, so it's only a B. But boy, it's close to being an A.
Oh.
Just a couple more.
Windrider Wizard. You get 2 in a blue for a 2/2 human wizard at uncommon rarity with flying, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery or wizard spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. This card's going to be in all the wizard decks. I don't really see a reason not to put it in the wizard decks. You get to draw a card, discard a card. There's a lot of reasons to do both of those things. I don't think that this card is broken by any means, but I think it's probably at least up for consideration. This is a solid B tier card.
Yeah, and in limited, this card's also great. A three mana for a 2/2 flyer, a Windrake. That's already what you want. And then above that, you also get to loot all the time because you're going to have more wizards, you're going to have instants, you're going to have sorceries. Even if you're not a focus deck on that, that comes naturally in this set. Yeah, this is great. You're picking this pretty highly. I don't know if you're first picking it over a lot of the stuff, but in weaker packs, you might even first pick it. It's almost a B, but I'm just going to say C, but it's really close to being a B. Last but not least, Zulaport Duelist. For 1 blue, you get a 1/1 human rogue at common with Flash, and when Zulaport Duelist enters the battlefield, up to 1 target creature gets -2/-0 until end of turn. Its controller mills 2 cards.
I love this card. I like this card a lot. It fits into Flash decks, it fits into mill decks, it fits into rogue decks, which are almost all the same thing. I mean, you can even play it in just a mono blue aggressive deck that doesn't have any mill themes other than this. Sometimes it saves face and saves one of those important creatures that you want to, because sometimes you're just holding it back, casting it to give your opponent a bunt attack. I like it a lot. It does a lot of things when it comes down, but I don't think it's like game breaking in any way, shape, or form. People are going to definitely include it in the mill decks. They're going to definitely include it in just the straight rogue decks that doesn't only want to mill. I think this is a B tier card.
In limited, this card's good too. Adding 1 power to the board when you need to block is great, and giving you more favorable blocks is going to be really good. Sometimes you're going to play this, and this card plus another card is going to eat something, and that's going to be really strong. But after it's done that, it's just a 1 mana 1/1 that sits on the board and doesn't do anything. And that's not good. A 1/1 on the ground does literally nothing in limited. So that's going to hold this card back a lot. Honestly, I think it's not going to make the cut a lot of the time. For as good as the ceiling is, the floor is fucking awful. So unfortunately, in limited, it's a D.
I mean, if this thing had flying,
it'd be broken. But when it's not, but it doesn't have flying, so get it out of here.
You know, I like to say if it had this,
put it in the dumpster for D.
I think it's going to see a lot of playing standards. So
it's all right.
All right, so that's blue. A lot of crazy, powerful shit happening in blue.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, my favorite card's Maddening Cacophony.
Yeah,
easy.
I was gonna say fun. That's definitely up there.
Lomade's
domination is also pretty insane.
Yeah,
it might take them out of all of the cards in blue, and there's some really fucking strong cards in blue.
What a good color.
Like white, I'm not gonna lie, white was kind of meh for me. It had some good cards, don't get me wrong, but overall I wasn't that impressed with white, and I think the reason for that is because white already has some insanely broken cards.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to make the power level too high on it, but blue
is where the magic happens.
Man, blue's just got some crazy shit happening over here, man. I mean, they printed negate, like, you know,
it's over.
Shit's getting real, dude. Shit is getting real. I like it all, but I think low mage's domination is going to be in so many blue decks. Yeah. People are going to be getting their shit stolen all the time. And you know, Is It Steel might actually be a good deck.
Maybe.
Just saying, because you got
other ways to do it.
Ways to do it in red. You got stuff to do it in blue. It might be fun, if nothing else, to just mess around with it on the ladder for a while.
It'll definitely be fun. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
Like, comment, and subscribe for more. It's coming up. We're gonna review every card. Give us time. We're working on it. The next one we might not actually be in person. It might be over the internet because it's hard to get in person. Because this isn't our full-time job.
Nope.
But
the next two might not be in person, actually.
Yeah, so. We'll see. You're gonna either see us or at least hear us. Yeah. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, share, whatever. You're on YouTube. You know what to do.
Until next time.